The quantum deception. The metallic taste of recycled air filled Dr. Isabella Santos' lungs as she stared through the quantum-reinforced viewport of Luna Base Zero. Her reflection ghosted against the stars, dark eyes focused on the seemingly empty construction bay below. To any conventional sensor, the massive cavity appeared to hold nothing but maintenance drones and basic assembly equipment. But Isabella knew better. Status report. Admiral James Harrison's deep voice carried across the observation deck. His tall frame cast a long shadow in the artificial lighting, weathered face bearing the marks of decades serving in Earth's Space Force. Isabella's fingers danced across the holographic interface floating before her. The quantum displacement field is holding at 99.8% efficiency. The Phantom is completely invisible to all known detection methods. She allowed herself a small smile. The Council's sensors wouldn't find it if it was parked in their main hangar. The vessel they discussed represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, and their best-kept secret. While the Galactic Council dismissed Earth as a primitive civilization barely capable of basic spaceflight, humans had been forced to innovate in ways the aliens never imagined. The Council's annual inspection is scheduled for next week, Harrison said, moving to stand beside her. Ambassador Zoxville sent another patronizing message about ensuring our simple vessels meet their safety standards. Isabella fought back a laugh. Did they include more remedial physics lectures? 3 attachments worth. Apparently, they're concerned about our crude attempts at artificial gravity. Harrison's voice carried a hint of bitter amusement. If they only knew we solved that problem 5 years ago. Below them, a slight distortion in the air was the only indication of the Phantom's presence. The quantum displacement drive didn't just make the ship invisible, it shifted it partially out of normal spacetime, making it functionally non-existent to conventional detection methods. It was technology the Council insisted was impossible, built by a species they considered barely more advanced than clever apes. The latest intelligence suggests they're increasing patrols near our outer colonies, Isabella said, pulling up another display. They claim it's routine monitoring, but the pattern suggests something more systematic. Harrison's expression darkened. They're preparing for something. The question is, what? I've been analyzing their patrol routes, Isabella responded, expanding the tactical display. They're methodically mapping our capabilities, probably trying to determine if we've made any dangerous technological progress. She paused, considering her next words carefully. I don't think they'll maintain this facade of benevolent oversight much longer. The Admiral nodded slowly. How many ships can we have ready within 6 months? 15, maybe 20 if we push the construction crews to their limits. The quantum displacement technology is stable now. We can replicate it reliably. Isabella's fingers traced the outline of the Phantom in the air before her. We've also made improvements. The new vessels will be able to maintain displacement for up to 2 weeks without realignment. And a cruise. Training in the simulators. The quantum interface takes some getting used to, but they're adapting well. Better than expected, actually. She smiled again. Turns out humans are particularly good at thinking in quantum possibilities. A soft chime interrupted them. Another message from the Council. Isabella opened it, her expression shifting from amusement to concern. They're moving up the inspection. They'll be here in 3 days. Harrison straightened, his military bearing becoming more pronounced. Can we have everything ready? The holograms are perfect. They'll see exactly what they expect to see. A handful of primitive ships, struggling to achieve basic spaceflight. Isabella's voice carried an edge of pride. Meanwhile, the real fleet will be right here. Quantum shifted just slightly out of phase with reality. The Admiral moved closer to the viewport, his reflection overlaying the stars. Sometimes I wonder what they'd do if they knew. If they could see what their condescension drove us to create. They'd never believe it, Isabella replied, beginning the shutdown sequence for the day's tests. Their own prejudices have become our greatest advantage. They're so convinced of their superiority that they've forgotten one of humanity's most fundamental traits, which is, we adapt. We innovate, and when backed into a corner, we become very, very dangerous. She gestured at the invisible ship below. They think they're containing us, guiding our development along acceptable lines. Instead, they forced us to transcend every limitation they tried to impose. As the lights dimmed in the observation deck, the slight distortion that marked the Phantom's presence seemed to fade even further. Soon, it would be joined by others, a fleet of ships that existed between moments, between the rigid lines of conventional physics. A fleet built by a species that refused to accept the limitations others tried to place upon them. "We should get ready for the inspection," Harrison said finally. "Make sure our primitive ships are properly displayed." Isabella nodded, already mentally reviewing the deception they'd crafted so carefully. "Of course, Admiral. We wouldn't want to disappoint our advanced friends." As they left the observation deck, the quantum sensors registered another successful test. The Phantom had achieved perfect displacement, becoming nothing more than a possibility in the vast darkness of space. Soon, humanity would show the galaxy just how dangerous possibilities could become. Hidden in plain sight, the Galactic Council's inspection team moved through Luna Base Zero with the practiced indifference of superior beings examining primitive technology. Their crystalline environment suits caught the harsh artificial lighting, creating rainbow refractions that danced across the walls. Ambassador Zoxthal led the group, his translucent facial features arranged in what passed for polite disdain among his species. Isabella fought to maintain her carefully crafted expression of nervous deference as the alien delegation walked directly through the quantum-shifted space occupied by the Phantom. Their sophisticated sensors detected nothing but empty air, exactly as planned. "Your progress continues to be predictable," Zoxthal said, his translator rendering the words in perfectly condescending English. "Though we note with some concern your attempts to improve your propulsion systems beyond recommended safety parameters." "We appreciate your guidance, Ambassador," Admiral Harrison replied, his diplomatic tone masking any hint of irony. "Safety is our primary concern." The inspection team moved methodically through the facility, meticulously documenting what they believed to be humanity's crude attempts at spacefaring technology. The holographic projectors worked flawlessly, showing them exactly what they expected to see: outdated engines, basic life support systems, and propulsion technology that the Council had deemed obsolete centuries ago. Isabella followed slightly behind, monitoring the quantum field readings on her secured tablet. The real fleet, now numbering 12 ships, maintained perfect displacement, existing in a state of quantum uncertainty that made them completely undetectable to even the most advanced Council technology. "These energy readings," one of the junior inspectors noted, gesturing at a carefully crafted false reading. "They suggest attempts at primitive shielding technology." Zoxthal's crystalline features shifted in what might have been amusement. "Admirable, but premature. Your species' understanding of fundamental physics remains insufficient for such developments." "We're still learning," Isabella offered, letting just the right amount of humility color her voice. Years of these inspections had taught her exactly how to play to the Council's expectations. The tour continued through the facility, each moment a carefully choreographed dance of deception. But beneath her composed exterior, Isabella's mind was racing. The inspection team's questions seemed more pointed than usual, their scans more thorough. Something had changed. Later, in the secure command center deep within the lunar facility, Isabella shared her concerns with Harrison. "They're suspicious," she said, pulling up the data from the inspection. Their scan patterns were different this time, more focused on specific frequency ranges. Harrison studied the analysis, his expression grim. "They might be starting to detect traces of the quantum displacement field." "Impossible," Isabella replied, but uncertainty crept into her voice. "The field exists outside normal spacetime. They shouldn't be able to detect anything. Unless they've developed new detection methods we don't know about." Harrison brought up a tactical display showing recent Council fleet movements. "Look at this pattern. They're establishing a grid around our colonial systems, far more comprehensive than simple monitoring would require. Isabella's fingers flew across the holographic interface, overlaying quantum signature analyses on the fleet positions. They're searching for something specific, she realized. The patrol patterns, they're optimized for detecting phase variations in spacetime. How close are they to actually finding something? With their current technology, they might detect anomalies, but they won't be able to identify what's causing them. She paused, considering the implications, but they know something's not right. They're starting to question their assumptions about us. Harrison's expression hardened. How many ships are combat-ready? 8, with 4 more nearly complete. The quantum displacement drives are stable, weapons systems are integrated, and crews are trained. Isabella brought up the status of each vessel. We can have the entire fleet operational within 2 weeks if necessary. Do it, Harrison ordered, quietly. Keep up appearances for the Council, but I want every ship ready to deploy at a moment's notice. A priority alert flashed across their screens. Another Council battle group had just emerged from hyperspace near the Proxima colony. Their official explanation cited routine exercises, but the fleet's composition told a different story. They're positioning for containment, Harrison said softly. If they've detected traces of advanced technology, they'll try to shut us down before we become a threat to galactic stability, Isabella finished. But they still don't know what they're really dealing with. She pulled up the quantum signature of the Phantom. Its existence spread across multiple possibilities in spacetime. The technology represented humanity's greatest achievement and their greatest advantage. The Council's arrogance had driven Earth to develop capabilities that transcended conventional physics, creating a fleet that could strike from the spaces between moments. We should inform the Defense Council, Harrison said. If the Galactic Council is preparing for confrontation, we need to be ready. Isabella nodded, already composing the briefing in her mind. They forced us into the shadows, she said, made us develop technologies they never imagined possible. And now they're starting to realize their mistake, Harrison finished. But they still don't understand just how big a mistake it was. As if in response, another alert flashed across their screens. The Council battle group near Proxima had begun active scanning operations, their energy signatures suggesting weapons systems in standby mode. The facade of peaceful oversight was beginning to crack. Isabella looked at the tactical display, watching the Council ships move into position around humanity's territory. They thought they were containing a primitive species that needed to be controlled. Instead, they were about to discover just how dangerous humanity could be when pushed too far. The quantum fleet waited in the spaces between moments, invisible and deadly. Soon, very soon, the Council would learn the true cost of their condescension. The breaking point. The emergency alarms blared through Luna Base 0 at 300 Earth Standard Time. Isabella was in the quantum lab running final calibrations on the newest displacement drive when the first reports came in. Her blood ran cold as she watched the tactical displays light up with Council warships emerging from hyperspace around multiple human colonies simultaneously. Status report. Admiral Harrison's voice crackled through the quantum-encrypted comm system as he rushed into the command center. Massive Council fleet movements, Isabella responded, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. They'd dropped out of hyperspace around Proxima, Ta City, and New Eden. Current count shows over 300 capital ships. The tactical display painted a grim picture. Council warships had positioned themselves in attack formations around Earth's major colonial systems. Their weapons were hot, their intentions clear. The pretense of peaceful oversight was over. Message from the Council ambassador, a communications officer announced. Text only. The message appeared on the main screen, its diplomatic language barely masking the threat beneath. In the interest of galactic stability, the Council has determined that humanity's unchecked technological development poses an unacceptable risk. This is a protective action to prevent further destabilization. Resist, and we will be forced to take more decisive measures. Harrison's face hardened. They're going to try to force us back into their version of acceptable development. He turned to Isabella. Status of the quantum fleet. All 12 ships are combat-ready and quantum-shifted. The Council has no idea they exist. She brought up the fleet's status display. The Phantom can lead the first strike team. We've upgraded the quantum displacement drives. They can now shift between normal space and quantum state almost instantaneously. Signal the Defense Council, Harrison ordered. We're out of time. Within minutes, the lunar facility's secure briefing room filled with military and civilian leaders, their faces grim as they assessed the situation. The Council's fleet movements appeared on the main display, a noose tightening around Earth's colonies. They've already begun landing troops on Proxima. The Colonial Defense Minister reported. They're disabling our primitive defense systems, the ones we let them see. They think this will be easy. Isabella stepped forward. The quantum fleet is in position. The Council ships have no idea they're surrounded by vessels that can shift in and out of normal space at will. One word, and we can end this before it begins. And reveal everything we've built. Someone asked. Once they know what we're capable of. They've already decided we're too dangerous. Harrison cut in. The only question now is whether we show them exactly how right they are. The Defense Council deliberated for less than 10 minutes before reaching their decision. Operation Shadow Strike was authorized. Humanity would reveal its true capabilities, not with diplomatic protests or pleas for understanding, but with a demonstration of power that would shatter the Council's illusions forever. Isabella returned to the quantum lab, initiating the combat protocols they'd hoped never to use. The quantum fleet's displacement fields hummed with power, ready to shift from possibility to devastating reality. All ships, this is control, she broadcast on the quantum-encrypted channel. Execute Shadow Strike protocols. Shift on my mark. Around Earth's threatened colonies, Council warships moved with the confidence of superior beings about to teach primitive upstarts a lesson. Their sensors showed nothing but outdated human vessels, their weapons trained on targets that posed no real threat. They never saw it coming. Mark. 12 quantum-shifted vessels snapped into normal space simultaneously, appearing literally inside the Council's carefully planned formations. The Phantom led the attack, its advanced weapons systems targeting the Council's flagship before they could even register its existence. Multiple direct hits, the tactical officer reported. Council ships showing confusion. Their sensors can't lock onto our quantum-shifted vessels. Isabella watched the tactical displays as humanity's hidden fleet wreaked havoc among the Council's forces. Ships that had been dismissed as primitive impossibilities now danced through their formations, striking from angles that shouldn't exist, disappearing before return fire could find them. Council ships are attempting to regroup, Harrison noted, watching the battle unfold. They're trying to adapt their tactics. But how do you fight an enemy that exists between moments? The quantum fleet struck like ghosts, their attacks precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. This wasn't about revenge. It was about showing the Council exactly what they had missed in their arrogance. Message from the Council flagship, communications announced. There, requesting clarification of our capabilities. Harrison's laugh was without humor. Tell them this is what happens when you force a species to innovate in the shadows. When you dismiss them as primitive while they're transcending your understanding of physics. The battle continued for less than an hour. When it was over, the Council's mighty fleet hung damaged, but largely intact in space, their crews forced to confront the reality that everything they thought they knew about humanity had been wrong. They're requesting a ceasefire, Isabella reported, reading the incoming transmission. The ambassador wants to discuss revising their assessment of human technological development. Harrison moved to stand beside her, watching the Council ships drift powerless in space. Tell them we accept, and remind them that what they've seen today is just the beginning of what humanity can do when pushed too far. As the quantum fleet shifted back into uncertainty, becoming once again invisible to conventional sensors, Isabella couldn't help but smile. The Council had wanted to contain humanity, to keep them safely confined within acceptable technological boundaries. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous, a civilization that had learned to turn limitations into advantages, to develop technology that shouldn't exist, and to hide their true capabilities behind a carefully crafted mask of primitive simplicity. The age of pretense was over. Now it was time to show the galaxy exactly what humanity had become: shattered illusions. The Council's emergency session was broadcast across all known frequencies, their crystalline chambers filled with representatives from 100 spacefaring species. Isabella watched the proceedings from Luna Base Zero's command center, noting the barely concealed panic in the Council members' movements. Unprecedented technological deception, High Counselor Vexterra was saying, her translated voice trembling with contained fury. The humans have violated every protocol, every agreement about controlled technological development. Admiral Harrison, standing beside Isabella, made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a snort. Funny how they're more upset about being deceived than about their own attempted subjugation of our colonies. The quantum fleet remained deployed, invisible but ready. After the initial battle, the Council had withdrawn their forces to reassess the situation. But long-range sensors showed massive fleet movements throughout Council space. They were marshaling their forces for something big. New quantum signatures detected, Isabella announced, studying the incoming data. They're trying to replicate our displacement technology. She allowed herself a small smile. Without much success. How long until they figure it out? They're working from the wrong principles entirely. They're trying to adapt their conventional phase shift technology instead of understanding the fundamental quantum mechanics involved. Isabella brought up the analysis on the main display. It's like trying to understand orbital mechanics by studying how birds fly. The tactical room's atmosphere changed as new alerts flashed across their screens. The Council's reinforcement fleet had arrived. Over 1,000 ships, representing the combined might of multiple alien civilizations. They're not taking any chances this time, Harrison observed grimly. Isabella's fingers danced across the holographic controls, analyzing the Council fleet's capabilities. They've modified their sensors, trying to detect quantum displacement signatures. But they're still looking for what they expect to find, not what's actually there. Status of our new ships. The Spectre and the Wraith are ready for deployment. The quantum displacement drives are even more advanced than the Phantoms. They can maintain multiple quantum states simultaneously. Isabella pulled up the technical specifications. Essentially, they can exist in several places at once, making them virtually impossible to target. The Council's broadcast continued, their debate growing more heated. Some members called for immediate military action to contain the human threat. Others argued for negotiation, their certainty in their own superiority shaken by the recent demonstration of human capabilities. Message from the Defense Council, the communications officer announced. They're requesting deployment options for the expanded quantum fleet. Harrison nodded to Isabella. Show them what we can do. She began the briefing, laying out humanity's true military capabilities for the first time. The quantum fleet wasn't just a handful of advanced ships. It was the first wave of a completely new kind of space warfare. While the Council had focused on preventing humanity from developing conventional technologies, Earth's scientists had pushed the boundaries of physics itself. The Council's trying to adapt their tactics, Isabella explained, showing simulated battle scenarios. They're developing new formation patterns, trying to account for our quantum displacement capabilities. But they're still thinking in linear terms: attack, defend, counterattack. And we're not. We're thinking in quantum possibilities. Every ship in our fleet exists in multiple states simultaneously. When they attack one position, they're actually attacking a probability cloud. She brought up the battle data from their first engagement. Look at their targeting patterns. They're still trying to fight ships that, from their perspective, don't fully exist in normal space-time. A priority alert interrupted their discussion. The Council fleet was moving into attack position, their formation suggesting they'd opted for overwhelming force rather than further negotiation. They're desperate, Harrison observed. They've lost their technological advantage, and they don't know how to handle it. Isabella watched as the massive alien fleet approached Earth's colonies. Their numbers were overwhelming, their technology still far advanced in conventional terms. But they were fighting an enemy that had learned to turn limitations into strengths, that had developed in ways they had never imagined possible. All quantum fleet vessels. This is Control, she broadcast on the secured channel. Execute multi-state deployment. Show them exactly what they're dealing with. The battle that followed would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy's balance of power fundamentally shifted. The Council's mighty armada found itself engaging enemies that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. Human ships phased in and out of normal space, striking from impossible angles, coordinating attacks across multiple quantum states simultaneously. They're adapting, Harrison noted as the battle progressed, starting to predict our pattern shifts. Then it's time to show them something new. Isabella activated the protocols they'd been saving for this moment. All ships, initiate quantum resonance cascade. The quantum fleet's displacement drives synchronized, creating overlapping fields of probability that turned space itself into a weapon. Council ships found their conventional physics-based systems failing as reality around them became uncertain. Multiple Council vessels requesting surrender, communications reported. Their fleet cohesion is breaking down. Isabella watched as the mighty alien armada began to fragment, their carefully planned assault falling apart in the face of technology they couldn't understand. The Council had expected to fight a primitive species playing with borrowed technology. Instead, they had encountered something entirely new, a civilization that had transcended their understanding of what was possible. As the battle reached its climax, Isabella couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Council's attempt to contain humanity had forced them to develop in ways that made them truly uncontainable. They had created their own worst nightmare, a species that had learned to turn quantum uncertainty into a weapon, to exist between the moments of conventional spacetime. The age of Council supremacy was ending, and in its place, something new was emerging, a future where humanity's potential could no longer be dismissed or contained. A new dawn. 3 months after the Battle of Earth's colonies, Isabella stood in a very different council chamber. Gone were the crystalline walls designed to intimidate lesser species. Instead, the new Galactic Assembly met in a circular chamber where all species sat as equals. The quantum displacement technology alone represents a fundamental shift in our understanding of physics, a Centaurian scientist was saying, their tentacles moving in patterns of excitement. But the implications for cross-species technological development are precisely why we must establish new protocols, interrupted a council elder, though their tone carried respect rather than the old condescension. The humans have shown us that innovation cannot be contained or controlled. Admiral Harrison, now Earth's representative to the Assembly, caught Isabella's eye from across the chamber. They both knew how much had changed in the aftermath of the Great Battle. The Council's attempt to suppress humanity had instead triggered a revolution in galactic politics. Director Santos, the Assembly chief, addressed her. Perhaps you could explain how Earth plans to implement the technology-sharing initiatives. Isabella stepped forward to the central platform. The quantum display systems, human technology now integrated into the Assembly chamber, responded to her presence, creating a holographic representation of her proposed framework. The old model of technological control has failed, she began. Not just for humanity, but for all species. The Council's attempts to maintain hierarchical development led to stagnation, not stability. The assembled representatives watched as she brought up data from the quantum fleet's engagements. What humanity achieved in isolation wasn't just about developing new technology. We were forced to think differently, to question fundamental assumptions about what was possible. The images shifted, showing the quantum displacement effect in action. We propose a new model of collaborative development, not controlled sharing of existing technology, but joint exploration of new possibilities. Every species brings unique perspectives, unique ways of thinking that could unlock new innovations. And what guarantees do we have that such unrestricted development won't lead to chaos? Asked a former council hardliner. Harrison stood. The same guarantee that's always existed: mutual interest in survival and progress. The old council failed not because they wanted stability, but because they tried to enforce it through suppression rather than cooperation. Isabella nodded, expanding the display to show the proposed new research facilities. Already, joint human-alien teams are making breakthroughs that neither could have achieved alone. The Arcturians' understanding of wave mechanics, combined with our quantum displacement principles, has opened up entirely new fields of study. The chamber erupted in discussion, but it was different from the old council debates. There was excitement rather than fear, collaboration rather than control. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had been the catalyst. Later, in a quiet moment between sessions, Isabella found herself back in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Harrison joined her, carrying 2 cups of actual Earth coffee, a luxury now highly prized among their alien colleagues. "Having second thoughts about sharing our technology?" he asked, handing her a cup. Isabella shook her head. "The opposite. Actually, I'm thinking about all the advancements we missed out on because of the old council's restrictions. How many other species have developed extraordinary technologies in secret, forced to hide their true capabilities? We're already seeing some of them come forward," Harrison noted. "The Proxians revealed their advancement in quantum computing yesterday. Turns out we weren't the only ones playing hide and seek. The Council's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humanity," Isabella said, watching ships of various species move through the space lanes around the assembly station. It was thinking they could contain innovation itself. She brought up a small quantum display, showing the latest data from the joint research projects. Human quantum displacement technology was being combined with alien innovations in ways she had never imagined possible. The results were already revolutionary. The Phantom's first test flight seems like a lifetime ago, Harrison mused. Hard to believe we went from hiding our technology to reshaping galactic society in less than a year. "We had help," Isabella reminded him. "The Council's arrogance, their absolute certainty in their own superiority. They gave us the perfect cover to develop something unprecedented." A notification chimed softly. The assembly was reconvening to discuss the proposed Galactic Science Initiative. Under the new framework, all species would share their technological developments openly, working together to push the boundaries of what was possible. "Ready to help shape the future?" Harrison asked, finishing his coffee. Isabella smiled, thinking of all the possibilities that lay ahead. The quantum fleet, once humanity's secret weapon, had become a symbol of something greater, the power of innovation unleashed, of potential unchained. "The Council wanted to keep humanity safely contained," she said, watching as representatives from across the galaxy filed into the assembly chamber. "Instead, they forced us to break free of every container they tried to put us in." As they walked back to the chamber, Isabella thought about the long journey that had brought them here. The Council's patronizing oversight had been meant to keep humanity safely primitive, controlled, and predictable. Instead, it had driven them to transcend every limitation, to develop technology that transformed not just space travel, but the very nature of reality itself. The age of secrets and suppression was over. In its place, a new era was beginning, one where every species' potential could be fully realized, where innovation and collaboration would take them all to heights the old Council had never dreamed possible. The quantum fleet still patrolled Earth's colonies, but now they were joined by ships of other designs, other species, all sharing the space between moments. Humanity had not just earned its place among the stars. They had helped create a new way for all species to reach them together. It was, Isabella reflected as she took her place in the assembly, exactly the kind of future worth fighting for. The end.